Hello, 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 everyone. Hello, Sean. How are you?
Hey, Dr. Stacy, I'm doing phenomenally well. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So, listen, we have been having many conversations just between the two of us about this whole thing called work, right? Now that we
Yes.
are both business owners, you a lot longer than I have been in business. And so, we've been talking about like your mental health, mental stability, some of the stressors and the different things. And so, I suggested that we go on live and have this conversation with a broader audience so that we can bring other people into our world. And so, thank you first and foremost for being here this evening and engaging in this very, very, very important conversation.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. I'm ready to get started.
Me too. So, before we jump in and get started, I just wanted to first say that obviously, and if you looked at the post, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And far too often, when we think of mental health, we only think about it from the aspect of mental health diagnoses. We don't think about it as the overall health, the day to day stressors, the anxiety, the fatigue, all of those things that play an important part as play an important role as a part of our mental health. And so that is why this is a very important topic. Now, Sean, I know that you worked in corporate America for many, many years, so I am going to yield the floor to you just to tell the people a little bit about your background.
Well, I started my whole corporate career back in 1996. That was a long time ago. If you want to do the math on it, you're more than welcome to do that. But I started off as a customer service representative at a company called Cellular One. I'm pretty sure that many of you remember it. It was one of the very first companies that popped up in the Midwest. And I was there for a couple years. I enjoyed the company. And in 1996, Bill Clinton then passed the Telecom Act of 1996, which was executed in 98. And due to that, there was a bunch of competitive local exchange carriers that popped up to compete against the regional bell operating companies. And I was able to get into one on the ground floor. It was called USN Communications. Dr. Stacy, from that point, I kind of rose up the corporate ladder. I went from being an account manager, then a salesperson, then a sales manager, then a state manager, into sales director. And then after being there for about 7 years, I went to a company called AT&T, where I was the vice president of sales and marketing for 5 years. Now, in all of those positions that I held, they were all sales positions. I came to the realization that I was real gifted in training folks because I was always training salespeople on how to close deals. And so at that point, I jumped into the training realm. I was the vice president of training for AT&T for 5 years, the vice president of training for a division of T-Mobile for 4 years. And then my last stop, I was the vice president of training for the largest textile restoration company in the world, which is CRDN. After which, I started my own company called the Fair Consulting Group, where I work with executive leaders here in the United States, Canada, and Europe. I also have a program called the Leadership Experience Tour, where we put speakers on the stage, we brand them, and we push their message out to the masses.
So, what I'm hearing is you have very little experience.
Yeah, something like that, Dr. Stacy. Something like that.
You have very little. You have no idea what you're going to be talking about when it comes to being in the workforce and some of the stressors, because all of the things you did sound like they were just very easy, right?
Well, no, not really. I mean, listen, mental health is something that we have to take very seriously in today's working environment because number one, the pandemic has caused a lot of different challenges that we were just unfamiliar with. But
Yes.
but just communication in general causes people to have mental stress. A lot of times you go into these companies and you're working with these executives and leaders that don't know how to communicate. Or
Right.
sometimes there's no communication, or sometimes there's late communication, or sometimes there's poor communication, or sometimes there's miscommunication, and it causes me or causes others to be stressed out within the jobs that they have to perform for the organization. So there are so many things that can cause people to put themselves in a very bad mental state within the organization.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so, for those of you who may not know me, just a little bit about my background is that I was in corporate America for a little over 35 plus years. And I started very early in working in ODNR, Ohio Department of Natural Resources, and then matriculated through several different corporations. I won't bore you all with the details, but ironically, Sean worked for AT&T, and no, we did not meet there. I actually just early retired from AT&T after being there for 19 years, contractor and as a regular employee. And so one of the things that I know that I dealt with as far as the stressor at work was always working on project deadlines. And then, of course, is dealing with colleagues, right? Everybody has their own idea about how things should be done, when they should be done, working at their own pace. And like you said, Sean, the communication is and was a big challenge. And so one of the things that I think that we have trouble finding or looking for or even recognizing is signs that there are some mental health challenges, the stressors, the anxiety, the frustrations inside of the workplace. Oftentimes we go through our day-to-day mundane tasks and we have the attitude of it is what it is, right? But it is what it is doesn't always work for us when it stresses us out. And what ends up happening is we take those stresses home. And then we deal with even more stress at home. And then we turn around and repeat the cycle and go back to work. Now we have the stress from the day before, plus the stress from home. And we're taking that back into the workplace to compile it on top of more stress. So just from your experience, what are some of the key signs or some of the things that you have seen that indicate that there are some mental health challenges that we deal with in the workplace? And this can be entrepreneur or corporate America, government, what have you. So what are some of the things that you've seen?
Lack of focus is a sign of mental stress. Lack of productivity.
Yeah.
Employees that call off work on a consistent basis. Lack of communication. Poor relationships between team members. Isolating themselves while they're at work. Those are some key signs. And in many cases, a lot of managers and leaders, they're looking at that, oh, they got an attitude problem. Something's wrong with them. Well, that's what you see on the surface. The question becomes, what's the cause of the action that you see from that employee? And most managers, they don't understand that there could be some underlying issues that need to address. Now, let me just say this. We can't go into corporate America and start diagnosing people. That's illegal. We can't do that. But you should be able to recognize the signs and have a meaningful conversation with your employee. And one of the things that I used to do when I would notice these things, I would bring an employee into the office and say, listen, I noticed that over the past few weeks that you just haven't been quite yourself. Is there something that's going on with you that I can assist you with? And my tone drop, and I would let them know that I'm concerned to see if they would open up. And even if they open up, it doesn't mean I can address every single issue they bring to me, but at least I know what direction to point them in. Send them to the HR department and see if there's some resources that they can take.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think that what you said is key, is that instead of skirting over the issue and going and gossiping about it, which tends to happen, is to have real dialogue, have a real conversation, and let people know that you actually care and that you see them, right? Because I think as human beings, one of the most important things for any and all of us is to know that we're seen. And far too often, we feel like we're not seen and we're not heard. And that just exacerbates whatever challenges and issues we are. Being kind to someone and having a real conversation actually goes a long way. It goes a lot further than I think a lot of people realize. Some of the other things that I have seen when it comes to not diagnosing, I'm sorry, we're not supposed to do that. When it comes to recognizing some mental health challenges or that there's some stressors there, are when people are lethargic or depressed, when they walk around just seeming like they're really sad, low energy. Also, being quick to anger. People who have short fuses typically are under a lot of stress or have some other challenges there. And we oftentimes take it personal, want to argue back with them. Instead of taking a moment to pause and say, hey, there's something going on here. We can't just say that he or she is always like, oh, they always have an attitude. They always have a chip. There's something else going there. So being kind goes a long way. Sean, what are some of the things that you would recommend to not even people who are inside of corporate America working for another company, but when we have those same stresses as entrepreneurs or business owners?
You cut off that last part, but I think I got what you said. Well, if we find ourselves being mentally stressed or dealing with mental situations, well, one, take a break, take some vacation time, take some time just to get away. A lot of times we put so much pressure on ourselves at being at work every single day and meeting deadlines and dealing with the different generations in today's workplace and trying to gel with everybody, right? We're trying to fit into a circle when we're a square. And if we're constantly doing that, we're not taking time for ourselves, right? We really cause us to, it really causes us to be, non-relational with people at work. So just taking some time off, taking a vacation is something you need to do. Now, if you don't have the flexibility of taking a vacation, then find something that you love to do afterward. And obviously spending time with the family is important, but going to get a massage. If I like playing basketball, I go and play basketball for a couple hours just to blow off some steam, to release some stress that way. But finding something that you enjoy doing is one of the things that I highly recommend for those who are starting to feel mentally stressed or some mental pressure.
And so I'm going to bring another aspect into this, right? For someone who does not work outside of the home, so I'll say a stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home dad. Now, they have a different line of work, right? Because their job is, in essence, taking care of the home and the family. So I know that some of my neighbors are stay-at-home moms, a couple of stay-at-home dads, and there's all of the pressures and the stresses behind taking care of the kids, keeping the house together, making sure that all of the household items are done with the chores, with the dinner and the meals and the packing lunches and taking kids to and from practices and games and keeping a schedule and so forth and so on. That can be equally as stressful as getting up and going into an actual workplace. So what would you recommend if you have any recommendations? And you may want to defer this back to me, and that's fine if you do. But what would you recommend for someone who works from home or is, operating and managing the home?
Well, I think it's situational, and I guess it
Mhm.
all depends on your circumstances. Whether you're a single mom or you're a single dad, or if you're married. But if you are married, then one of the things that should happen is that when the spouse that does work come home, they should take on some of the duties at the house, like with the children, like give the other spouse some alone time, because it's difficult when, especially when you have small children and you're talking to children all day every day. Like, you want some adult conversation, right? Getting out the house and maybe going out with a friend where you can have some adult conversation, maybe a nice dinner or something along those lines, just to get away for just a moment. So hopefully, if you are married, the spouse can come home and take a load. It shouldn't be, I'm at work all day and then I come home and then let me just take off my shoes and watch television, right? It shouldn't be that way. But knowing that that spouse has been doing work herself or himself, if that's the situation.
Yeah. And I think that sometimes it's a little bit more challenging because people don't see when you're at home as that being an actual job. So even for us as business owners, I know when my mom lived with me for a little while and I would work from home, and because I was at home, she didn't see it as me having a job because, of course, in her generation, it was getting up and going outside of the home in order to work. So there's a lot of times that people feel like, oh, they're at home all day. They're not doing anything. They've got plenty of time. And that we're sitting around eating bonbons and, I would say, watch soap operas, but I don't think that many soap operas come on anymore. But that's what people think that you're doing, is that you're just sitting at home chilling and that you have no stress because you're at home, as if home life can't be stressful as well. So I want to move on for a second and ask about work and home life balance, because I know that that is a hot topic. And I will say for me, when I was working my corporate job, and even now that I have early retired and that I'm working my company and operating my company, I will get up early in the morning and I will go up to my office and work, and sometimes not come down from my office until late at night, the wee hours of the very next morning, because there's so much work to do and there never seems like there's enough hours in the day to get it done. And so I find it difficult, even myself today, I find it difficult to create that balance. So how have you been able to maintain work and home life balance, work and personal balance, professional and personal balance?
Well, I think you just have to be intentional. A lot of people think that balance is I work from 9 to 5 and I stay within those hours every single time. It doesn't always work that way. There may be times I work from 9 to 9, but there's got to be days where I'm only working 9 to 12. Now those days don't happen often, but every now and then you got to carve out time for yourself. You got to carve out time for your family, and again, these are some situational things. If there's only one income earner, you'll find that the balance is a little tougher, in that particular situation. And so you have to find the times that you do have where you're not working. The question becomes, what are you doing with that time? Because when that time is available, then that's got to be family time, right?
Yeah.
When the time is open for you, that's got to be family time. And what I find is that some people, they really don't have balance, but then when the time they do have is open, they're not spending it with the family, and that's causing challenges within the home. So, we just have to be mindful of our circumstances, mindful of what our family needs, and then making sure that we just carve out time to give them the things that they need so that they're happy. Because if they're not happy, what happens is it causes you all kind of problems within the household. Then you got to go to work and take those problems. You're really taking them to work. And now you got an attitude at work and everybody else is having a good day. They sit next to you and now they're having a bad day. And then your work is not getting done right because you're thinking about everything that's at home. Now you got problems at work and you're taking the problems at work, now bringing it to the house. And now you got triple problems going on. So it's just this cycle, this vicious cycle of issues when you're not taking the time to do the things that you need to do, both at work and also at home.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And that's, I have coming up an event in June where we are dealing with just that. We're dealing with the mental intelligence around relationships, around finances, around nutrition, because all of those things, as you just described, are impacted negatively when you don't operate with the right mindset. And if you're not intentional about making sure you find a way to decompress, acknowledging your stresses, because oftentimes we try to suppress them, push them down. I'm all right. When everybody can see that you're not all right. How are you doing today? I'm all right. I'm good. And you're really not. And like you said, the cyclical effect of having challenges at home, challenges at work, if you end up losing your job or you don't get the pay raise because of poor performance or what have you, it then impacts your finances. Like I just talked about, getting up, going up to my office, working all day, not coming down from my office to take a breather impacts my nutrition because I'm not eating, because I'm too busy to eat. And then I become hangry because now I'm hungry, and angry because I'm stressed out and I don't have enough fuel. Like, it is just a vicious cycle that I know I'm not the only one that continues to repeat it. And so the event that I'm having in June is actually dealing with all of that and giving people tools and tips, because I am consistently working on it and I'm getting better. Not there yet, but it's not a destination, it's a journey. So I want to ask you for a second. I know that you have a coaching program. When it comes to all of the things that we just talked about, because I know you're dealing mostly with entrepreneurs, business owners, when it comes to coaching and teaching in these areas, what tools or tips could you leave with just a snippet that you can leave, that you also share with your your mentees in your coaching program regarding those areas?
Well, I would just want to say is that if you are struggling with any, mental situations, health situations, one, it's hard to run a business and stay consistent with that. And we haven't gone into like any of the specifics, but ADHD is something that is very prevalent in today's workplaces and
Mhm.
entrepreneurs and 30% of the people that's out there that's either in the workforce or they have their own platform, 30% have some variation of ADHD. I tell folks all the time, I got a touch of it myself, right? There's no sense in you sending me an email with 10 paragraphs in it because I ain't reading it. Now, again, I might skim through it, but I'm not reading it, right? So if you're trying to send me some important information, you think I'm about to sit here and read through 5 paragraphs, you'd be sadly mistaken. Now, again, I might skim through a few pieces of it, but you wonder why I sent you the information. I said, I know you sent me information, but you wrote a book knowing that I got a little ADHD. Well, you have to address those situations, right? Going to a therapist to help you through that is really important, right?
Mhm.
You have people that suffer with seasonal affective disorder, from the month of October through March. Generally, it's dark when we have to go to work. It's dark when we come home. A lot of us, we experience depression, anxiety during that time of the year, but to just push on without seeking some help is an issue because when you're building a business, you got to be consistent and you have to accomplish and execute small, manageable steps every single day. And if your mental health is not right, you're unable to do that on a consistent basis.
I
So
agree.
we have to take care of ourselves and going to see a therapist. There's nothing wrong with it.
You're
I
gonna keep
got,
saying
I know you got one, and
it.
there's a whole bunch of
Mhm.
other people that need one. I'm gonna talk to them right after this call.
You gonna call them each personally?
One person.
No, but I mean, I agree with you. I think that people, it used to be taboo to seek counseling or therapy, but listen, with this world that we're living in today, we need every opportunity that we can have to course correct ourselves, our belief structure. I'm big on belief structures, our belief structure and our behaviors. So I agree with you 100%. So I know that we said that we were going to end at about 6:30. So I want to go ahead and begin to close this out. I think this has been a very important conversation. I think it's going to be very helpful to a lot of people. I'm actually having a master class tomorrow called Stop, Drop, and Roll. Remember that when we were kids? Stop, drop, and roll.
You
That's
talking
what
about
we
the
were taught
dance
to
move for a
do
minute.
in case of a fire. What were you going to say?
I thought you were talking about a dance move for a minute, but go ahead.
No, when we were kids, we were told that if we ever, if we were in a fire and we ever got caught on fire, we were supposed to stop and then drop and then roll in order to put the fire out. You weren't taught that as a kid?
Yeah, that's ringing a bell now. It's coming back to me.
Okay. So I took that same concept and I'm actually teaching a master class on it tomorrow, but I'm talking about a different type of fire. I'm talking about when you're actually burnt out. And I'm talking about some of the things that I've gone through my corporate experiences and being a business owner to really help people and giving people the truth, the raw, unfiltered truth about some of the things that I went through and some of the things that I had to learn so that I didn't repeat them in order to avoid the burnout and really be able to live the life that I know I'm meant to live. So I'm just sharing some information tomorrow. It's a free masterclass. It's at 11 o'clock, shameless plug now. It's at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern for anybody who wants to tune in. I'll make sure that with this Facebook and Instagram recording that gets posted, that I put the link in there for you to be able to register for that free masterclass. But now that I've done my shameless plug, Sean, what do you have coming up and what can you offer to people who might want to work with you?
Well, funny you should ask, Dr. Stacy. We have the Leadership Experience Tour, which is the #1 platform for speakers here in the United States. It's coming up October the 23rd through the 27th. And we are now interviewing speakers for the big stage. We're giving a $15,000 sponsorship for all of those whom we choose. So if you want to be on the big stage, big digital backdrops with cameras all over the place, and capturing you tell your story, giving a story that helps your target audience come to the realization that they have a problem, and you have a platform, you have a business, you have a program, you have a product that solves that problem, then you should come to the Leadership Experience Tour. We'll have about 50 speakers there from all over the country, and it's a 3-day event, and it's absolutely amazing. So if you're interested, you can just reach out to 586-690-1879, shoot a text message, or you can go to www.leadershipexperiencetour.com, and you can send us a message there, and we'll respond within 24 hours.
That's absolutely awesome. And of course, I have done the Leadership Experience Tour, and I actually met Sean just before that, but it was a phenomenal experience. And I have learned so much through that experience that actually did help my mental health, because it kept me from being so stressed out with some of the materials and things that I did not have as a business owner, that now I talk to other people about having and recommend them to the Leadership Experience Tour. So Sean, I want to thank you for this time. I mean, you know that you mean a lot to me, and I hate that this is recorded because now it's going to be in writing, if you will, that I've actually paid you a compliment, but you've helped me out a lot with my business and with keeping my mindset in the right place as I do the work that I do. And I know that there are several other people who are business owners and entrepreneurs that also come through your programs that do very similar work in helping people to be better in life. So thank you so much for your time this evening. I really appreciate it. This, of course, is going to be on our social media platforms. And anyone who wants to get in touch with Sean, make sure that you reach out. We'll also make sure we put his information in the notes for the social media platforms, and mine as well. So again, Sean, thank you so much. Great conversation. Of course, we'll have to keep this conversation going because it's very important. But for the rest of you all, I'm going to say it. I always say it. Make today better than yesterday and strive for an even better tomorrow, because mindset truly is everything. Until next time, you all, take care.